Hello and welcome to our new video on the Foucault pendulum versus the PLeane pendulum number 4. Now, if you've been following the series, we left off in our Most Accurate Clock on Earth series 9C when we investigated putting a magnet in the bob itself to try and make the bob stabilise to the Earth's magnetic field. And we came across the fact that it looked like this has been totally overlooked by millions of experiments, considering the Foucault pendulum would have to be one of the most experimented experiments ever done. Now, that will introduce a new vector. So, there's a new vector in the game now. So, we've just had to put this Most Accurate Clock series on hold for the moment till we figure out what's really going on with this bob, because if it is actually not revolving, then the whole concept of pendulums, how we measure time, everything is now got to be reinvestigated. So as you know, all our clocks on Earth are pendulum clocks, whether they're from a grandfather clock to an atomic clock. You know, they're all based on a pendulum, where the pendulum swings back and forth as an oscillator. Now, during that transition, as you may have noticed in some of my videos, I always just realise the fact that at this point here, when the pendulum stops and goes back, we're not measuring time. There's no way we can measure time, so we can't measure the speed of light, we can't measure anything accurately because we're not really in an isochronous measuring point. We're just an oscillator going back and forth. So if this new vector changes the dynamics of the pendulum, then how we've measured time and the speed of light are all up in the air. And it's looking, from my early investigations, I sort of in the back of my mind had that time is the constant and not the speed of light, which it will upset a lot of people, but Einstein may have it wrong. So we also got to look at that possibility Einstein got it wrong. It is time is the constant, not the speed of light. Now, I sort of was stumbling on this with my early experiments, and I came across this, remember this formula that created a fair bit of debate. My formula for the period of a pendulum is 2 times the square root of the length, as opposed to the conventional formula for the period of a pendulum, which is 2 pi the square root of the length over g, gravity. Now what I did, I assumed that gravity is constant, because on Earth we measure our frame of reference for measuring everything is Earth. So, and as far as I'm concerned, gravity is a constant. Although it varies a minute, I don't believe it's possible to measure it with time. So although it measures through the mass, we can measure gravity through different variations in mass, we can't measure it with time on Earth. So basically, with this sort of all this stuff in the air and this rethinking everything, we needed a more accurate pendulum. Now, the pendulum I had was basically based on Foucault's pendulum, and I was sort of fudging the boundaries to keep within his, in honour of him, to keep within his parentheses of his design. But I think it's time we broke away and launched into a new design. And the first thing we have to investigate, firstly, it's so important, is this actual bob moving? So let's look at that now, and if it's not moving, if it's going straight, then okay, everything's in the air. So let's go now to that experiment. So this will be just an introduction to the pendulum, the new design, and revisiting that with the magnet, inserting the magnet, and see if it actually turns to the Earth's magnetic field. So here we go. So here we have our new setup and our new pendulum. I've installed two lasers, one for the Z-axis down here and one for the X-axis over here. Our basic setup is we have a line running north, south, and our pendulum is somewhat centered. Although it's moving at the moment, that's not going to worry us, because the experiment now is more or less just simply this magnet. I'll just zero in on the pendulum a bit more to give you a bit more detail, some of the new features. There is a new magnetic ring around the side here for our magnetic launch. Our indexing, we're actually indexing now so we can launch to exactly the same angle that our laser will be at. And also there's a rubber stopper down the bottom here. That sort of helps if this thing breaks. Can do a lot of damage. So let's zoom back and have a look at our inserting this magnet and see what happens. And I'll just here's my little magnet. The red is the north side. Now I'm sort of halfway between north and south, so this could go any way. Let's insert this magnet. This is a 400 gram bob, by the way. Quite a lot of mass. And I've centered the magnet. So let's just see what happens. You'll either go left or right. Okay, just going this way, anti-clockwise. Right. We don't know where it's going to settle, so this will take a while. What I might do is just stop the video. Yeah, I don't think you need to see this thing settle. Alright, let's come back in about half an hour or so. Right, here we are. The pendulum has finally settled. I didn't even take an idea of the time. It was quite a long time. So it didn't settle on north. I'm not sure why that is. It settled on that angle there with the marker. Now, a little bit off north. Maybe the torsion in the cable stopped that. That's another experiment. I don't want to get too involved today. You've seen how it swung around. We have a definite course now under a magnetic field, very close to launching north, which is the ideal angle to launch a pendulum. So we've achieved our goal of a more accurate bob with now indicators. We've got away from those gyros and those electronics that were giving us problems. I think we're ready now for a launch, and our next experiment will be a launch along this magnetic line of north. We'll try and get as close to north as possible. In the meantime, we can think about why it didn't go to north. Perhaps it maybe the flux from the, it is an aluminium. It's I forget the composition of the aluminium. I turned this out of it was anyway, basically it's aluminium, so it may have a flux line that distorts the magnet. Maybe the magnet wouldn't settle to true north anyway. Again, there's probably 10 experiments we could just do on that. We don't want to get off track, but the main thing is you've seen that move quite a distance from its original location to almost north, and I think we have got a line to launch on now. So stay tuned, and hopefully I've got the next experiment not too long away. Thanks for watching.